It appears as though we start today inside a random storage unit. Well, I mean, not too incredibly random, but here to grab some carts or a workbench or something to that effect. Probably multiple things. We've got the Rubbermaid service cart here. It is full of stuff, but the nice thing about the way I pack this is, well, we have enough floor space to get inside, but also everything in the middle here is on top of wheeled carts. Oh, folding table. Yes, that's the one Mike gave me. Yeah, so definitely gonna get that folding table. And then maybe this Rubbermaid cart. And then back there is a cart you may remember from such videos as something about Harbor Freight. I don't know, I can't remember. A few years ago. But anyways, we're gonna have some stuff because I'm not running out of. I just don't have workspace on the apartment that's not the floor. So we gotta fix that. Oh man, this is like winning the lottery of stuff. So we got the table, we got this workbench thing here. There's a shelf in the middle. This is super sturdy. We're gonna use this actually later today for getting the Volt Pro battery charge discharge data logging setup going. And also, while I was in here, I discovered, wait for it, kind of dark, the non-branded generic light beer sign. So we've got that. Well, I discovered a few other things while I was in here. There's a box of vehicle hand control parts. I need that to put hand controls back into the green van because I robbed those to put them into the new diesel van. But as it turns out, I'm going to be keeping that van, so I got to put hand controls back in it. I think I've got all the parts I need except for the Ford steering column bracket that I made. I have not seen that in a while. I think there's another box of hand control parts inside the bus, like in the basement. So we'll figure that out. But anyways, for right now, I think we've got all the things we need. So yeah, back of the van's kind of full. Okay, well, it looked full from the outside. Not actually that full. Also, I found my shower chair. I didn't realize that had survived the Great Dumpster Purge. So anyways, let's go somewhere else. Well, what do you know? The van has emptied itself, and now we're back at the bus to grab some more stuff. That's going into the green van because that's all the hand control stuff. But yeah, we're gonna see what else we can cram in here, seeing as how I'm already out running around and stuff. I don't remember how much I've recorded in here, but we've got the dishwasher taken out of here, move that back to the shop. So we have our little workbench space back here. However, probably not going to be using it super soon, but I got the TV still in here, got my Chromecast off of that. Oh, I need to get my Victron charger, actually. My chair's been missing being charged with this, although I think it's plugged in back there in a way to where I have to remove a couple of these panels to get to it. So yeah, our little whatchamacallit, shelf clothes dresser thing or whatever is now out of here. Making progress. Just need to get this thing moved to a spot that it can be parked in, and we'll be set. Probably another week or two maybe before we get that done, but I think most of the stuff in here that needs to be moved before it can be driven is already done. So that works. I think we're gonna load back up in the van, head back to the apartment, and then I've ordered a bunch of stuff on Amazon. It won't be here till tomorrow, unfortunately, but we will at least get the Volt Pro battery setup mostly put together. I ordered a 24 volt power inverter so we can load that thing down. I've got a little 300 watt space heater we can plug into it. And then got some clip leads and a bunch of other random stuff. So anyways, let's head back to the apartment. Alrighty, here is the test bench thing. Yes, I'm in the Bounder currently. And I have a backpack full of stuff. So we got some wire, some battery cables, more battery cables, and some 40 amp fuses, some lugs or terminals or whatever those are, and I think that's it. So I'm going to basically use these little short cables, wire this up in series, and we've got some 10 gauge wire here, and depending on how many amps that power inverter pulls, it's going to get delivered in the morning. We might be able to use the 10 gauge or double it up or something like that, and We can also parallel some fuses if need be. It's only a 600 watt inverter, but it's high frequency, and we're gonna be plugging like a 300 watt or 250 watt space heater into it. So we'll figure all that out. Regardless though, we're gonna have some nice big battery cables to run this thing together. Oh, I need to dig out my, that thing I built. What was it called? The Super Jank 3000 or something? It's in one of these crates over here, but it's got the battery monitor, very similar to this one, and Hall effect current clamp and stuff. So anyways, this is like $75 worth of stuff. Well, fast forward a couple of days, and Amazon, for whatever reason, decided that they were going to split up my order into 2 shipments. One of them arrived, and the other one did not. Wouldn't you know it, I start editing this after recording the thing saying that Amazon's not going to be here today, and I get a notification on my phone saying that my power inverter is 8 stops away. But when I look on the website, it shows it's not going to be here till 6 p.m. tomorrow, maybe. But then the tracking says it's out for delivery. So I'm going to just fart around here at 7 o'clock right now and see if it magically shows up, because if it does, I would like to get it set up. So we'll just wait a few minutes and see what happens. No sooner than I set down the camera after saying that, it has been delivered, and there's a picture of it at the bus. So we're gonna go over to the bus, pick this thing up. I need to go over to the shop though. There was a power surge there earlier, and I think my data management computer's not working anymore, but I don't really want to drive that far. Well, let's go get the power inverter and then we'll see how I feel. And welcome back to the bus. Oh, that is not what I wanted to do. Don't want to stow the lift while I'm sitting on it. That would be bad. Anyways, we in theory, there is a package here somewhere. Well, looky here. It's a box. DC to AC, pure sine wave, blah, blah, blah. 600 watt. 24 volts. Sweet. Let's give this thing a quick how you doing. Ooh, there's a envelope with a washer in it and some lugs. Comes with some battery cables that are not very big. What are these? 10 millimeters squared, so yeah, whatever. There do not appear to be external fuses on this. There might be internal fuses, maybe? Well, there may or not be fuses inside of it. Regardless, I think what I'm going to do is grab I think we got a 120 amp breaker from a permobil chair that's DC rated in the basement of the bus. So we're going to see real quick if that's in there, because, yeah, sketchy. Well, it appears as though I already pulled those parts out and took them somewhere else. I think I've got one of those crappy DC circuit breakers that we took out of the inverter setup. I think we still have one of those, so we might be able to use that. It's at least something. But worst case scenario, we can always parallel a whole bunch of those 40 amp fuses together. Welcome back to here. We have this thing. I was dumping out the little thumb screws, and I noticed there was a 40 amp fuse in there. Regardless of that, I figure it's good to pull out the screws and have a look inside this thing, just to see how janky it may or may not be. Let's have a look here. So, fuse. Do we have a fuse? Okay, the input terminals seem tight. We have a fan. We've got some hot glue holding things down. Got a little daughter board here that looks like it's controlling the volt and amp thing. Where is this alleged fuse? Oh, there it is. I see it. It is stuffed down in here. So, yes, we do in fact have a 40 amp fuse in there. I don't really trust that fuse, so I'm going to swap it with one of a known quantity made by ATC. That's 40 amps. And I think we should be good. Let's see here. It appears as though our board is held down here, and we've got, looks like the chassis is in fact grounded. Missing a screw there, missing a screw there. Oh, it looks like we've got screws on standoffs holding on the board. So there's 3 screws, one here, here, and here. The rest of it's kind of flopping in the breeze, but it is on some foam blocks, so that is something. Is there neutral and ground tied together on this thing? Looks like we've got, well, how do you say that? Floating neutral? Neutral's not tied to ground, so interesting. The ground terminal on these outlets go directly to here, which connects to, it's our weird screw here on the bottom. So there's our grounding screw. And yeah, so anyways, I think we're good. I'm gonna swap out that fuse real quick with one that I trust. We'll put it back together and hook it up. This thing is now connected, so let's turn it on and see if any magic smoke does anything. Okay, we've got voltage. Oh wait, oh, weird. So that's battery voltage and that's output voltage. I would have thought it was amperage, but anyways, let's plug this in and see what it has to say. So 121 volts that says, 122 that says, that's fine. And yeah, so let's set this to watts. Then we have a little 200 watt space heater here. And let's see what this thing does. Keep an eye on the voltage and let's see what happens. So it looks like our output stays pretty stable, and this thing is pulling about 200 watts. All right, let's get our clamp ammeter set up. There we go, and we'll turn our inverter back on. And yeah, factoring in some of the losses and whatnot, I was calculating about 8.8, 8.9 amps for a 200 watt thing. Or was it 250? I don't know, whatever. But yeah, appears like we're pulling about 8.7 amps. So yeah, 4 or 5 hours of this, and it should simulate a chair being used or whatever. And just testing our setup here, we've got our little data logger hooked up. I've got it in voltage mode. So let's hit run on that. And I think we're taking samples here every few seconds. So 25.40, we'll turn on the inverter. And this should drop. There we go, we can see that going down a little bit. Cool, well, I think our setup is going to work. This is only half of the equation though. This part with discharging the batteries doesn't really matter. This is just a means to an end to get them low enough so that we can charge them back up. I do believe our setup is complete. We have our load here, which is somewhat irrelevant to the testing we're doing. We have our SuperJank 5000, which is basically just going to be an interface for the charger. That comes through here, goes through this current clamp, comes around here, goes into the batteries. So sanity check, 25.46, 25.3, 25.57. So this one's a little lower. I am curious about voltage drop. This cable can handle 5 amps. This is like one of those battery tender connections. Granted, we do have a few connection points. There is an additional fuse back here. What I want to do is plug the charger in real quick and see how far off all of this is. Because if this wire is too small or too long, we may get some voltage drop from the charger to the batteries. And I'd kind of like to avoid anything having discrepancies here. So let's get this thing plugged in. Okay, everything's turned on here. This thing, I believe, is still in the 10 amp higher voltage mode. So let's see what we get here. Plug this in. And there we go. Boom. Should fire up. There we go. We're getting 10 amps, 29 volts. This one says 28. This one says 28, although it is rising. So that thing seems to be reading a little bit high. This is very low. Actually, it's not too far off from this one. Actually, let's turn that off. We don't need that to be on right now. Actually, I don't think we're getting any voltage drop. So that one says, oh, we're coming up, there's 30 volts. This is still 29.4 and rising. This one says 30.35, still going up. This one's 29.7. So it looks like these batteries, okay, so it just dropped off there. We may be getting some voltage drop here. Anyways, we're wandering into the territory where I need to do more testing. This was just the basic setup, and I have decided I'm gonna hook up the other data logger for current because I don't really trust that thing. It's not super important, but it'd be nice to have the data, on a graph showing the two things. So anyhow, I think we're gonna call that good. So I will see you guys on the live stream tomorrow. There may be a special guest here with me tomorrow, so you have to wait and see on that. But anyways, yeah, things are happening finally. Just editing, and there is in fact a fan on this thing that turns on. I was curious about that. I left it running just to drain the batteries down a bit. Yeah, there seems to be a little bit of heat coming out of there, so... Oh, and just like that, it turns off. Alright, nice to know the fan works. I didn't even think about that. It said like intelligent fan or something like that, but anyways.